Why? Because if we can remove you from broader society, we punish you. Human beings, by their very nature, need interaction. When you're in prison and you break the rules, what do? Then they put you in isolation. So just to be clear, to the strongest, toughest, most evil people of society, the single most powerful form of punishing them is separation. It's not physical punishment. It's I'm going to put you in a hole, alone. That's it. And it will break you.
So you heard what he said. Vusi, he's a businessman, entrepreneur, and specializes in coaching people in their business ventures. But this particular clip stood out to me. I had to screen record it. Vusi, I hope you don't mind, because it sung to me. And it sung to me because this year, 2023, I have had no less than 12 cases of children, year 7, who have been placed in isolation where they get broken. He said it. They get broken. We're talking about babies. You've just come from primary school into secondary school where you're starting this new school journey. You're excited to be there. You don't know the norms. You don't understand what's going on. You don't understand certain things. You're still a baby. They've been on the planet for 11 years. Think about it, parents. 11 years. We keep blaming the children. For what? Being children. Why is it that there are so many children right now in school environments, mainstream school predominantly, and also the private sector? You don't get off because you guys are just as guilty as the public sector. But there's children in these environments who have got a tremendous amount dealing with the lockdown where they told children to stay home. Parents had to work, they couldn't cope, or whatever the scenarios may be. You have children whose parents have died from whether it be cancer, whether it be sickle cell, whether it be anything. And now they're back in the school environment. As year 7, remember year 7, they're going from primary to secondary where it should be all exciting. Many schools don't have a transition policy, that they transition the children. Many of them say to me, oh, well, they come during the summer holidays. That's not a transition policy. So if that's what schools are telling you, that's not it. Why is it that we have so many year 7s and 8s literally cutting their wrists with razor blades? I know so many children, girls in particular, who are cutting their wrists with razor blades. Their arms, their legs are filled with cuts, slices, because they cannot cope. Why? They're placed in isolation. Just as a quick one, isolation should be for, say for example, your child has done something wrong during the school day, and a detention hasn't worked or a talking to hasn't worked. There's supposed to be levels before you get there. But what we find with children that look like me, they're immediately placed in isolation and accused of being a threat to the school environment, a threat to teaching staff, a threat to themselves, violent and aggressive. Generally, the reason why that comes about is because that child is being bullied by older children within your school. What I find why that comes about is that you have an issue with racism in your school. Do you guys know that the government have actually passed legislation that says that schools do not need to actually record racist incidents in schools? Do you know that racist incidents in schools have actually gone off the chain? Gone off the chain with racist incidents, from bullying to physical violence, knocking out teeth, calling children the N-word, calling children monkeys, throwing bananas at them, constant taunting. However, the teachers don't see when that happens. But as soon as your child decides to respond because they've had enough, now your child is labelled violent, aggressive, a threat to the school environment. What do we do about them? We will place them in isolation. We put them in isolation because we want to break them. And when you're breaking them, that means that their mental health is gone. Gone. And I've seen the repercussions of children whose mental health is completely shattered. Their self-esteem completely shattered. Remember, we're talking about 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13, 15, 16. They've been on the planet for that long. And you feel it's appropriate as government schools, as so-called teachers, as so-called head teachers, to place these babies. And people always say to me, why do you call them babies? They should know better. How? Why should they know better? How would they know better? Well, they have school policies. Show me an 11-year-old or a 16-year-old that's read any school policy. Show me. They have assemblies. Okay, yeah, they do. Do they have assemblies about bullying? Do they have assemblies about racism? Because I hear a lot of diversity and inclusion talk, but what does that look like when you're brown skin, black skin, or maybe have a beautiful hue like mine? What does that look like? Where's the protection for our children? Because whether you're on this video, you're white, black, or Asian, disproportionately, black children are 168 times more likely to be permanently excluded for minor infractions. Let alone right now we have self-harming. Let alone right now we have children whose parents may have died from during or then after COVID for a multitude of reasons, and the support is not put in place specifically and particularly when they're black. Excuses are made about your child being violent and aggressive and all the rest of it, but the support is not there. So what are parents supposed to do? What do they do? Go to their doctors. The doctors are overrun. The schools have policies. It seems interesting how they follow those policies when your child is misbehaving, when your child responds to a bully, when your child fights back and defends themselves, when your child has beautiful natural hair that doesn't dictate or implicate any of their learning. We can hear just fine. But yet you say it goes against your policy. When does your policy have anything to do with my hair? How does your policy have anything to do with my hair? Tell me. And even if that policy does or did or whatever you want to make up because you feel like it, does it stop me from learning? No. So then, I've said all of this. What do we put this down to? Is it just bad teaching? Is it bad management? Is it discrimination? Overt or covert racism? What is it? Because I don't see why a black child is 168 times more likely to be placed in isolation where you're broken. Remember, you see what he said, and we all know what isolation rooms look like in a prison. Why are these places allowed in schools? So we get to a point where your child is broken. When your child has now been broken from being placed in isolation for up to 3 months, which I will say again is unlawful, what do we do with that child? We toss them out and they put them in PRUs, the sin bin of society. The place where if they're lucky they'll get a maximum of a C grade in a GCSE. And that may be in arts, English, maybe, not even maths so much, and not even in the sciences, not the full sciences. So what do? Tell me. There's a problem with racist discrimination. We think that what happened with the girl in Ireland is anything to go by. This happens every single day with our children in the UK education system. The fact that racism does not need to be recorded in the UK education system is a problem. The fact that black children are 168 times more likely to be permanently excluded is a problem. The fact that isolation, where they break your child, your 11-year-old baby, is a problem. So what are we going to do now? Tell me. Because there's no legal aid for fighting a legal battle. It doesn't happen. If your child needs an EHP, you'll be lucky.